What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Ernie Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. Last video, we talked about how we were going to build an all-black Justice League. Now, we're going to spend some time talking about how we're going to build an all-black Avengers squad. And just like with last time, there's going to be some caveats, one of which being that this is going to be kind of built around the current makeup of Jason Aaron's Avengers squad, loosely. Not only that, characters from various other teams like the X-Men, the Thunderbolts, Champions, whoever, any of those characters can easily wind up on this team. Unlike last time, this isn't going to be so much built around, common team archetypes, but just who I think is the best fit for the team overall, or who would make the most powerful team. And of course, all characters involved in this are either black or at the very least half black, and some may even be African or in other cases Wakandan. That said, the final thing is this is my list, so it's my personal opinions, and I'm pretty sure everyone or someone out there has an opinion of their own. They probably think I'm wrong, they probably think their team is better, that's fine. Either way, you can tell me in the comments. That's fine. Don't expect to change my mind. That said, it is time to wash your damn hands. And let's hit that intro.
Word to wise, grass only greener when it's fertilized. Gave them truth in these songs, they prefer to lies. Destiny beautiful, adrift in her purple lies. You can't see me, you Stevie, wondering how I reach more evolutions than Evie and make it look easy.
Before we get started, if you want to see more awesome comic book videos like this one, it only takes 2 clicks to become one of Earth's mightiest subscribers. Click. Okay, so right off the rip, let's go ahead and get the easy one out of the way. This team needs a Black Panther, and you know what? We already have one. We're just gonna keep that one. Black Panther is a character who, of course, I'm sure most of you probably know who he is, but he is one of the smartest men on the planet. He has a vibranium suit that basically is bulletproof, allows him to absorb incoming kinetic energy and attacks and just unleash it in the form of his own sonic blast. And not only that, the guy has vibranium claws. The man is literally the leader of the peoples of Wakanda. He is the leader of the Avengers right now in the comics. And I know a lot of people talk about, oh, Batman is prep time. I think Black Panther is better than Batman even with prep time, because Black Panther doesn't need it. Hell, if he had prep time, he'd still whip Batman's candy ass. Next up on the list that I would throw in, you need somebody who's going to be your magic source, your expert in the occult and the supernatural, which is something I'm incredibly fascinated with. I would bring in none other than Dr. Voodoo Jericho Drum, a guy who is, for all intents and purposes, a powerful sorcerer and at one point was Sorcerer Supreme. The guy has literally held his own with characters the likes of the Scarlet Witch, Doctor Doom, Doctor Strange himself. Not to mention, it's all in his name, Voodoo. The guy has voodoo. I mean, it's over, it's a wrap. Next up on my list is going to be a guy who I don't think really gets talked about very often in terms of black characters, African characters in comics, and that's going to be Gentle, who is a Wakandan mutant. Now, he is a more relatively new entry into the realm of the X-Men, but he is a mutant born in Wakanda who essentially is one of the most powerful beings on the face of the planet. This guy can literally, if left unchecked, go toe-to-toe with the Hulk, or maybe even the Sentry or Blue Marvel. He is so powerful, in fact, that he has to have these Wakandan vibranium tattoos placed on his body to keep his powers in check, because the more he uses his powers, the stronger he becomes. And we need a heavy hitter on this team. We need a Hulk, and I think that this would be the guy to use. I think that Gentle would be the guy you throw at this problem, and even when he's kind of holding back his powers, he's still ridiculously strong. So yeah, I want Gentle on the team. Speaking of X-Men, we need someone as a Thor stand-in, and I can't think of any better character to stand in for Thor than Storm. Storm is literally a goddess in her own right, and not to mention she is technically considered welcome in the realm of Asgard. She's just that powerful and just that badass. She can control the weather, and not just on Earth, but any planet. She can control things down to the minutia of the Earth's meteorological systems. You want tornadoes, you want lightning storms, typhoons, you want hurricanes, you want gale force winds, you want to ride the lightning, you call Aurora Monroe. Now, next up on my list, Doctor Strange technically kind of filled in a rotating spot on the team, which is now kind of technically held by Blerd. We also have another supernatural character on the team by the name of Ghost Rider. Now, I'm not going to throw another supernatural character in, so I'm just going to use this opportunity to throw in a character who is just a straight up boss, and that's Blue Marvel, Dr. Adam Brashear. A guy who literally has no limits to his strength that we are aware of. A guy is literally a living antimatter reactor. He is essentially a black Superman and a Green Lantern all rolled into one character because he can make hard light constructs using his antimatter. The guy has gone toe-to-toe with the Sentry and the Hulk, and not only that, he is one of the smartest men on the planet. He was able to figure out things even Reed Richards couldn't figure out, and that's a guy I want on my squad. Next up on the list, I want to take a look at the character of Captain Marvel. Now, with Carol Danvers being Captain Marvel, and personally one of my favorite versions of Captain Marvel, I actually have a version of Captain Marvel I like just a little bit more, and that is Monica Rambeau. I want Spectrum to come in and take over in that role, where Carol is physically one of the most powerful characters on the face of the planet in terms of sheer and raw energy manipulation and power. That role goes over to Monica Rambeau. And Monica Rambeau is one of those characters that she can literally tap into the entirety of the electromagnetic spectrum. That means gamma rays, that means X-rays, magnetism, that means electricity, microwaves, and on top of all that, she can become any of those things as well. She is, for all intents and purposes, the most powerful being on Earth, which is why she doesn't get used very often. Hell, I would even point out the fact that when we had the War of the Realms event very recently, some of the characters on this list were specifically written out of the scenario because they were that powerful. Characters like Dr. Voodoo, Blue Marvel, and Spectre were intentionally written out of War of the Realms so they wouldn't come in and undo it so easily. They also had to write out characters like the Immortal Hulk and Scarlet Witch as well for the very same reasons. But that should tell you something about a lot of these characters' power levels. Black characters usually tend to be some of the most powerful characters in comics. They just don't get used very often as a result of that. Now, the next two characters on my list might be a little underwhelming because they are going to be the characters who don't have superpowers, in the strictest sense of the word. Case in point, we need an Iron Man stand-in, and I'm going to go ahead and say it right now. Some people will get tilted by this, but I'm going to go with Riri Williams, not just because she took over for Iron Man during the time where he was in a coma and technically dead, but the thing is, I believe that Ironheart is a better Iron Man than Iron Man is. And I challenge anyone to tell me otherwise because a lot of times people always tell me that, oh, Tony Stark has this amazing personality. Oh, he's this amazing character. But here's the thing. Tony Stark didn't have a personality until 2008 when the first Iron Man movie came out. Before then, he was a D-list character, even among Avengers. So whatever personality he has isn't necessarily new. It's something that comes from the movies, not from the comics per se. And Riri Williams has a much more interesting personality to me, and in a lot of respects, her comic, even though technically it's not running anymore, is more interesting to me than anything that's been going on in Iron Man's comic for the last 20 years. She is just as smart, if not smarter than Tony Stark, and she has been able to adapt in ways to the changes in the environment around her and her enemies that have come against her versus anybody else. She has gone through just as much trauma as any other hero could possibly go through, and she's still here to tell the tale. She's witnessed her stepfather and her best friend killed in a drive-by shooting. She recently discovered that her biological father is a whole-ass supervillain and that she is possibly destined to become just like him, and she has overcome all of that. And on top of that, she built her own Iron Man armor when she was only 14 years old. And she's only gotten better since then. Next up is going to be who I want as my Captain America. Now, we're not going to have an actual Captain America, it's not a thing. I'm not going to pick someone who has ever been Captain America. I'm not picking Patriot. I'm not picking Falcon. I'm not picking any of these characters. I'm going to pick a character who I feel is best suited to be a leader of this entire team of misfit black characters. And that's Night Thrasher, a character who helmed the New Warriors, who created them from the ground up based on the formation of the Fantastic Four, and then added on to that team from there on out. Night Thrasher is used to dealing with personalities that don't necessarily align with his. And imagine what he could do if he were surrounded by people who think not that differently from him. He would be able to get so much more accomplished. Not only that, he is a guy who is, for all intents and purposes, just a regular dude, but he also kind of fills in a role that not many characters successfully do in Marvel Comics. He's kind of a Batman pastiche in his own right. And now, yes, Black Panther also fills in that role as well, but imagine a team where you have have some of the smartest individuals in Night Thrasher, Black Panther, and Ironheart and Blue Marvel sitting in the same room at the same time, formulating a plan to take down any threat coming towards the Marvel Universe. And they also have characters like Dr. Voodoo, Gentle, Storm, and Spectrum to plan around. I wouldn't want to be on the other side of that. Now, that said, this is not the only list out here like that. As a matter of fact, my guy, Devontae from Alternative Factuals, just about the time that I put out my Justice League, my all-black Justice League video. And with that said, I try to keep my list as different from his as humanly possible, because there are some characters that I thought about adding. I was like, nah, it would just be the same list. So I try to come up with something a little bit different. If I'm not mistaken, I think he's going to be doing his own all-black Justice League video. So make sure you go swing over by his channel at Alternative Factuals. I'll put a link down in the description below, and you can go check that out. And speaking of Justice League, make sure you go check out the Justice League podcast. It is a podcast including myself, Devontae from Alternative Factuals, and Fantastic Frankie, and occasionally Brother One Above None is out there with us too. You can find this podcast on Anchor, Google, Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, anywhere good podcasts may be found. So check it out if you want a new podcast that's for us, by us. That said, let me know what you think would be the best all-black Avengers team. Wash your damn hands and sound off in the comments. So hey, you made it to the end of the video. Awesome for you. If you enjoyed this video, and if you made it this far, I don't see how you didn't, do me a favor. Hulk smash that like button. And if you want to see more awesome videos like this one, make sure you click subscribe so you can become one of Earth's mightiest subscribers, and tap that bell so you know when I post up. Also, feel free to go check out my Patreon, where if you chuck in a buck, you can get early access to most of my videos up to a week early. And if you have time, make sure you swing by nerd901.com, where you can find more of my content as well as other amazing stuff. Anyways, until next time, I love you 3000 plus ultra.